The problem with the orthosphere, and I apologize, I'm stepping on some guys' toes here, is they want women, and they're not the type of men that those women would want. And it's like, that's where you have to be a little bit more self-aware. And that's where I would totally agree with the red pill and the manosphere talk about male growth and
yeah. So let's just be frank here. There's a lot of dorks, and they don't know how to talk to women. They've never talked to a woman. They're terrified of walking over and initiating conversation. I mean, come on, it's time to stop being a dork. That's the key.
Right. And I had, dude, I'm not kidding. I talked to one guy. He was like, man, there's a really cute girl at my parish, and I was trying to talk to her, and I was like, well, what were you talking about? Theology. Bro, why are you going up to girls like
total ignorance? Total
ignorance. This is not for women, bro. This is not.
Men have women that women are definitely interested in, some women, but I'm saying,
if you're going up to a girl at a parish that you think is cute, don't be talking about the energy essence distinction. What are you doing?
Yeah, this is a total misunderstanding of what a woman is and how she operates and how she thinks, and what a guy is and how they operate, right? It's the exact flip of what you were saying about the career women who think that what men want is what they are portraying through their careerism.
Oh, great point.
This is the flip version of that, where the nerd guy thinks that, oh, girls are going to like me when I show that I've read all the church fathers and I can explicate the access energy distinction and I can talk. No, they don't. No, you just come off as a complete dork, and because women are not wired for that, right? So if you want to get a girlfriend, number one, work on your appearance. Work on your gait, the way that you walk. Don't walk around like a spur with something stuck up his butt, running around like this all the
or
time.
Shuffle your
Don't
feet
shuffle.
Around
These kinds of things are where you want to focus, like learning how to act like a normal human being, right? A person who can have a mundane conversation. You might be a nerd who doesn't want to do that, but if you want to be able to get around in this world, you need to learn how to do that, how to have normal conversations about normal stuff, right?
Right. And so, finding objective virtues and values to aim for, that's what a man should be aiming for. And we look at history, like men were all about honor. And so that's why so many men were willing to sign up and die on a battlefield, because, okay, I'll get married at a young age, I'll have children at a young age, and now it's time for my honor. And so maybe I'm enlisted in the military, or I go do something, or I build something. Like, we just have no honor as men in the present world. And I would say this would be a critique I would aim at the manosphere, is they don't talk about honor enough. The idea of getting, it's all utility. It's all commodification. It's all consumerism. It's like, bro,
that's because for them it's all tied to libertarianism and the pleasure principle and utilitarianism, which the connections are all there. And it's like maximizing happiness is maximizing the moral calculus pleasure principle, right? Going back to Bentham and all those guys. But that's because their whole ethos is immanentized, right? So everything that they're talking about is immanentized because it's a materialistic idea of what exists and what men's telos and orientation is. So if you don't have a transcendent telos, then everything's going to be oriented to the here and the now and just the pleasure principle. So we need virtue ethics. That's classical ethics in the sense of, you can even go to the Aristotle, right?
Right.
And if you look at Ambrose, for example, St. Ambrose, we had Dr. Sean Stidd, when he presented his paper a couple of years ago at the Sophia conference, he showed how what Ambrose does is just take the classical Greek virtues and apply them in a Christian context. And that's essentially what David Patrick is doing here. He's saying, look, there's these principles that people like Aristotle talked about, courage and honor and these kinds of things, and they absolutely are part of our worldview, because we do have a virtue ethic.
Right. And that's what you as a man should be focused on. And that's why, again, I was at Montanica talking to a group of people, and I knew I was talking to 20-some-year-old, 30-year-old men who felt like they were, again, almost consumers of the manosphere. But you ask them, they have no purpose, they have no skill set. And I'm not stepping on anybody's toes or mocking anybody who feels that way of their life right now, because that's a real problem just based the way that our world is. And so I would then, as a advice would be, again, that's why you need to pray. You need to get in touch with God. You need to really focus on working on yourself, developing yourself, self-development, so that you can figure out, oh, okay, I'm good at these things, I'm not good at these things, and work on yourself. Focus on what's in your control. And then so they focus too much on what's out of their control, like the women.
Yeah,
like, dude,
so yeah, whining and complaining about the things that they can never.
Whining and complaining about women,
things that you can never change or fix, right? This is a classic thing of all leftists, which shows that these people actually just have a leftist mindset, which is to whine and complain about the things that can never be altered or changed. And I'm not a Stoic, but if you've read Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, which we've done a whole lecture on that, the Stoics had a great point, which is that, look, why are you going to focus on the world and all the things that you can never affect or change? You can never change what somebody's doing a million miles away. You're never going to change everybody's mind about whatever you think about this or that, right? It's like Marxists and this sort of idealistic perception that they have that I can fix the world and change everybody's mind about how they think about equality and fairness and all this stuff. No, you can't. The Stoic would say, look, you can fix what's in your life. That's within your domain of something that you can fix. So focus on that, not on problems a million miles away that you don't have any connection to and will never be able to fix. It's ridiculous.
Right. Like the Great Reset, things that we talk about. People are so focused, and even in our orthosphere, they're so focused on things that are out of their control. It's like, bro, look, you're 30 pounds overweight, man. And you're asking for a virgin girl? Are you serious right now? Like, have some self-awareness and work on yourself. So that's a huge part.
That's a great point. Yeah, the lack of self-awareness, exactly right. And I remember in my 20s when I was a super nerdy theology guy, I remember having to learn these lessons as well, because it was like, I was probably 20 pounds overweight. I was drinking beer all the time, constantly drinking. I mean, I wasn't an alcoholic, but I'm saying, like, drinking every weekend. And, all the conspiracy stuff, all the problems in the world. And it's like, well, wait a minute. What have I done to actually change my own situation, right? I'm whining about all this stuff about, the New World Order and all this kind of, and that's all true. But what's that going to just put me in a black pill situation? What am I going to do with a black pill situation? Just be miserable?
Right.
You have to take the initiative.
And that's where I would say the real white pill, then, although it's difficult, is that suffering is tied to being a man. And you have to embrace that. That's what we do as Christians, but you have to realize that the only way you progress is suffering. The only way you look good in the gym is by suffering in the gym, by exhausting your muscles. The only way you read all those books you read, the only way you do overviews of Carol Quigley is that you suffer through the discipline of going through it. Christ is the ultimate representation of what a man is, because he took the most suffering. He took the sins of the world that he wasn't even responsible for. And that's where taking responsibility, taking ownership, and then realizing that suffering is not something to be avoided, or you're going to be in your coon pod. You're going to be of these libertarian ethics where, again, like you talk about, these only focus on the immediate moment, immediate pleasure, the avoidance of suffering. If you're trying to avoid suffering, the devil already has you, bro. Because you're like cattle that are just being herded right into the pen where you're going to be slaughtered.
Well, I'm going to be really precise here, because I can already anticipate what a lot of like MGTOW or men's rights guys are going to say. So you're telling me that my job is to totally be self-immolated on the altar of marriage and getting screwed over in the marriage courts, and that's my duty as a man. No, that's not what we're saying. That's not what I'm saying. The point is that, look, life is going to bring suffering. So it's going to be part of life. I'm not saying you need to try to, in some weird sadomasochistic way, take on ridiculous, absurd levels of suffering. That's weird and crazy. But rather, the attitude of a lot of the manosphere and the red pill people is, I'm going to live for pleasure and thus avoid all suffering and just live for my moral calculus pleasure points. And that's actually a feminine, that's a form of, I'm going to have my own little security blanket of my feelies and all this kind of stuff. That's a gynocentric way to live.
Right. Exactly. And I would say even I would say, Justin Waller has some good things that to say about men's issues right now, but him saying that I'm not wired that way, that I would definitely, if I was married and had kids, I'd still have to have multiple girlfriends. That's feminine. That's a lack of, even if you have that temptation, again, as a Christian, and he calls himself a Christian, he identifies as a Christian, that dying to the world is part of that suffering. So even if you have those temptations for all those other women, not acting on them is actually part of your salvific journey. That's part of your, again, being a man and like defining more boundaries. So that's where again, we were looking at criticisms. My first criticism is like, what exactly is the role of masculinity in men? And for them, men are just supposed to make money, gain status, and then get with the best woman you can. And then if you want, it's
just hedonism. I mean, it's like, what? Hedonism. Like, how is that a better choice than any of the other options of what we were? So there's all of this ruckus and whining about the status of things, and then the answer is what? Just pleasure point. This is like the
spin more plates, bro.
The mice that are pushing the little thing that gives them the
cocaine.
Yeah,
that's exactly what they are, and that's why the grift is so profitable, because the men just want more of the cocaine. They just want more of the pleasure. So what is the ultimate point of becoming high value for the manosphere? And this is generally speaking on many of the people I've listened to. It's so that you can have autonomy and choose the woman that you want and have more access to women. And so the discipline that they talk about is always fitness, money, career. You focus on all those things and you get all those game attributes elevated. Now you can focus and you can just pick the girl you want. And it's like, well, then the next question is, what is the role that men play in society? Is it just to get with women? I mean, because that seems pretty futile. I would say it's to build structures. It's to build society. It's to contribute to something that is beyond who I am. My goal right now is to build something, get married, have children that last longer than I do. That's the point of a man. And the lack of any focus on children and marriage, I think, is really an undermining of what men should be doing. And I would then agree with them that, well, why would I get married if my girl, she's just going to get unhappy and she's going to divorce me and I'm going to lose half? I would agree. That's why you have to be religious. That's why the woman that I'm marrying believes in God so much that she will do exactly what I say.